It was supposed to be an ordinary Saturday afternoon in Monroe, Ohio. The kind of lazy summer day where the biggest decision Sarah had to make was whether to water the garden before or after lunch. Her 3-year-old daughter, Emma, was doing what she did best, creating a masterpiece of chalk drawings on their driveway, her pink dress already sporting streaks of blue and yellow dust. The sun hung high in a cloudless sky, and the neighborhood was peaceful, filled with the distant sound of and children playing in backyards. Sarah smiled as she watched Emma draw what appeared to be a very abstract interpretation of their family dog, Biscuit. "Mama, look," Emma called out, pointing at her artwork with pride. "It's Biscuit with wings." Sarah laughed, wiping the sweat from her forehead. "Beautiful, sweetheart. Biscuit would love it." Then everything changed in an instant. The first sign was the sound, distant sirens that grew progressively louder. Sarah looked up from her gardening, squinting down the tree-lined street. 2 police cruisers were turning onto their quiet suburban road, followed by what looked like an animal control van. Her heart skipped a beat. Police cars in their neighborhood were rare. Crime was virtually non-existent in this part of Monroe, where everyone knew everyone, and the most exciting thing that usually happened was Mrs.'s annual 4th of July block party. "Mama, police!" Emma shouted, dropping her chalk and jumping to her feet. Her eyes went wide with the kind of excitement only a toddler could muster at the sight of flashing lights. "Yes, baby, I see them," Sarah said, moving closer to her daughter instinctively. She placed a protective hand on Emma's shoulder as the vehicles came to a stop just 3 houses down from theirs. Neighbors began emerging from their homes, curious about the unexpected police presence. Officer Jake Mitchell stepped out of the lead cruiser, his uniform crisp despite the summer heat. He was a familiar face in Monroe, a 10-year veteran of the police department who had grown up in this very neighborhood. At 34, he was known for his community-oriented approach to policing and his infectious enthusiasm for his work. But what captured everyone's attention wasn't Officer Mitchell. It was his partner. Rex emerged from the specially designed K9 section of the police vehicle with the kind of presence that demanded attention. The German Shepherd was magnificent, 85 pounds of pure muscle, with a thick black and tan coat that gleamed in the sunlight. His ears stood at attention, alert and focused. His dark eyes scanned the gathering crowd with the intensity of a trained professional. This wasn't someone's pet. This was a working police dog, certified in suspect apprehension, narcotics detection, and search and rescue. He wore an official K9 vest that read "Police" in bold white letters, and even from a distance, his powerful build and confident stance made it clear that this animal was not to be approached casually. Sarah felt Emma tense with excitement beside her. "Mama, is that a police doggy?" "Yes, sweetheart, but we need to stay here. That's a working dog, not a pet. We can look from here, okay?" Emma nodded, but Sarah could see the fascination sparkling in her daughter's eyes. She tightened her grip on Emma's shoulder, knowing her daughter's impulsive nature all too well. By now, more neighbors had gathered. Mr. from next door came out with his 2 teenage sons. The Martinez family walked over from across the street, their baby in a stroller. Mrs., the retired teacher who had lived on the street for 40 years and knew everyone's business, hurried over with her smartphone already out and recording. "It's for National Night Out," Mrs. announced to anyone who would listen. "I got an email from the police department last week. They're doing K9 demonstrations around different neighborhoods today. I completely forgot it was today." National Night Out, Sarah remembered now. It was an annual community-building campaign designed to strengthen police-community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie. Each year, police departments across the country organized events to help citizens get to know their local officers. Apparently, this year Monroe's police department had decided to bring their K9 unit directly to the neighborhoods. Officer Mitchell waved to the growing crowd, his friendly smile putting people at ease. Rex sat obediently at his side, the picture of discipline and control. "Afternoon, everyone," Officer Mitchell called out. "Thanks for coming out. We're here today as part of National Night Out to introduce you to one of Monroe PD's finest officers, my partner Rex. We'll be showing you how police dogs are trained, answering any questions you might have about K9 units, and hopefully helping everyone understand the important work these amazing animals do for our community." The crowd murmured with interest. Several children in the gathering pointed excitedly at Rex, though their parents held them back at a respectful distance. Everyone understood the unspoken rule: you don't approach a police dog without permission. Everyone except Emma. Sarah felt her daughter shift beside her. "Can we go see Mama, please?" "In a minute, baby. Let's wait until Officer Mitchell says it's okay to come closer." Emma nodded again, but Sarah could feel her daughter's whole body vibrating with barely contained excitement. She should have known. She should have held. She should have picked Emma up right then and there. But Sarah made the mistake of turning her attention to Officer Mitchell, who was beginning his demonstration by explaining Rex's training history. "Rex has been with the Monroe Police Department for 3 years, Officer Mitchell was saying. He's certified in multiple areas including—" That's when Sarah felt the small hand slip out of her grasp. It happened so fast. 1 second Emma was standing beside her, and the next second Sarah heard the patter of small feet on pavement. She whipped her head around just in time to see her daughter's curly brown pigtails bouncing as Emma took off running, sprinting at full toddler speed directly toward the massive German Shepherd. "Emma, no!" Sarah's scream pierced the afternoon air. Time seemed to slow down to an excruciating crawl. Sarah's legs moved, but it felt like running through water. Everything happened in terrible slow motion, yet too fast to stop. She watched, helpless and horrified, as her 3-year-old daughter closed the distance between herself and 85 pounds of trained police dog. Officer Mitchell's head snapped toward the movement. His entire body tensed. His hand moved instinctively toward his belt, ready to give Rex a command, though what command Sarah didn't know, and that terrified her even more. Rex's head turned. His ears shot forward. His dark eyes locked onto the small figure racing toward him. His muscles coiled, and for one heart-stopping moment, Sarah imagined every worst-case scenario flashing before her eyes. What if he saw Emma as a threat? What if his training kicked in and he reacted to defend his handler? What if Emma startled him and he bit her in reflex? The crowd collectively gasped. Mr. grabbed his sons and pulled them back. Mrs. Martinez covered her mouth with her hand. Mrs. phone camera shook violently as she continued filming, though Sarah later learned she had been whispering, oh my God," the entire time. Sarah was screaming Emma's name, her voice raw with panic. Officer Mitchell had opened his mouth to shout something, a command, a warning Sarah would never know. Because in that moment, Emma, age 3 years and 4 months, came to a skidding stop less than 2 feet from Rex's powerful jaws. Her pink sneakers squeaked on the pavement. Her chest heaved with exertion from her sprint. Her curly hair was slightly disheveled, and there was chalk dust on her cheeks. The German Shepherd loomed over her, easily 3 times her size. His ears were forward, his full attention focused on this tiny human who had just invaded his space without warning. Officer Mitchell's hand hovered near his belt, frozen mid-motion. Sarah was still 3 steps away, her heart hammering so hard she could hear it in her ears. Emma looked up at the massive police dog. Rex looked down at the tiny girl. And then, in the suspended silence that followed, with every eye on the street watching in terror and fascination, Emma smiled her gap-toothed smile, tilted her head, and spoke 2 words that would change everything. But those 2 words, and what happened next, was something no one could have predicted. Not Sarah, who knew her daughter was fearless. Not Officer Mitchell, who had trained with Rex for 3 years. Not the neighbors who thought they were about to witness a tragedy. and certainly not the millions of people around the world who would soon watch this moment unfold on their screens, unable to believe what they were seeing. The clock was ticking, the world held its breath, and a 3-year-old girl was about to teach everyone watching a lesson they would never forget. Emma stood face to face with Rex, the massive German Shepherd police dog, in what felt like the longest 3 seconds of Sarah's life. The entire neighborhood seemed to hold its collective breath. Birds stopped chirping. The distant sound faded into background noise. Even the breeze seemed to pause, as if nature itself was waiting to see what would happen next. Sarah's feet were still moving, her body operating on pure maternal instinct, but she knew, with a sinking, terrifying certainty, that she wouldn't reach her daughter in time. Emma was too close to Rex. Any sudden movement from Sarah might startle the dog, trigger his training, cause him to react defensively. She was trapped in a nightmare scenario where doing something could make things worse, but doing nothing felt impossible. Officer Jake Mitchell's mind was racing through his training protocols. In his 3 years partnering with Rex, they'd been in dangerous situations together, armed suspects, high-speed pursuits, volatile domestic disputes. He trusted Rex with his life. But this was different. This was an unpredictable situation involving a small child who had appeared without warning. Dogs, even highly trained ones, could react unexpectedly when surprised. Mitchell's hand remained poised near his belt, ready to give Rex a command if needed, though part of him wasn't even sure which command would be appropriate for this unprecedented moment. Rex's entire body language was locked in assessment mode. His ears were forward and rigid, his eyes fixed on Emma with laser focus. His powerful muscles were coiled beneath his thick coat, ready to respond to either his handler's command or the situation developing before him. 3 years of intensive training had conditioned him to evaluate threats, to distinguish between friend and foe, to react with precision and control. But training scenarios never included 3-year-old girls in pink dresses running straight at you. The German Shepherd's nostrils flared slightly as he processed Emma's scent. No fear, no aggression, no threat markers, just the smell of chalk dust, strawberry shampoo, and the slightly sweet scent that all small children carry. His ears twitched, picking up the sound of her breathing, fast from running but not panicked. His eyes tracked her movements as she stood there, completely still now, looking up at him with those wide, innocent eyes. In the crowd, Mrs. Phone continued recording, though her hands were shaking so badly that the video footage would later show a slightly blurred image. She had stopped breathing entirely. Mr. had instinctively pulled his teenage sons further back, though they were craning their necks trying to see what would happen. The Martinez baby had started to fuss, but Mrs. Martinez quickly covered the child's mouth, not wanting any sound to disturb this precarious moment. Time stretched like taffy. What was actually 3 seconds felt like 3 hours to everyone watching. Emma, blissfully unaware of the panic she had caused, simply saw a dog. A very big dog, certainly. Much bigger than Biscuit, their family's aging cocker spaniel who spent most of his time sleeping on the couch. But still, just a dog. And Emma loved dogs. She loved all animals, actually. She had books about animals. She watched nature documentaries with her father. She had stuffed animals of every species imaginable covering her bed. To Emma, Rex wasn't a trained police K-9 capable of taking down criminals. He was just a potential friend she hadn't met yet. Her gap-toothed smile grew wider. Her eyes lit up with pure, unfiltered joy. She had no concept of danger, no understanding of the dozen different ways this situation could go wrong, no awareness of the terror gripping every adult witnessing this encounter. She only knew that there was a beautiful dog standing right in front of her, and she wanted to say hello. Emma tilted her head slightly to the right, the way children do when they're thinking or being especially earnest. She took a small breath, and then, in a voice that was somehow both tiny and crystal clear, that high-pitched, sweet, innocent voice that only a 3-year-old can produce, Emma spoke. "Hi, friend." 2 words, simple, pure, direct. The words hung in the summer air like a spell being cast. Sarah froze mid-stride, her hand still outstretched toward her daughter. Officer Mitchell's jaw went slack, his prepared commands dying on his lips. The crowd seemed to collectively exhale, though no one moved, still uncertain if the danger had passed or was about to begin. But it was Rex's reaction that made this moment transcend from a scary incident into something magical. The German Shepherd's ears, which had been rigidly forward in assessment mode, slowly softened. The tension that had been visible in his shoulders began to melt away. And then, in a movement so gentle it seemed almost impossible for such a powerful animal, Rex's tail, which had been held straight and still, began to wag. Not a frantic wag, not an excited wag, a slow, controlled, gentle wag that seemed to say, "I hear you, I understand, you're a friend." Officer Mitchell's eyes went wide. In 3 years of working with Rex, he had seen his partner in dozens of public situations. Rex was always professional, always controlled, always maintained his working dog demeanor during demonstrations. He would tolerate being petted by approved citizens, but he never showed personal preference or particular warmth. He was on duty, and he acted like it. But this was different. Rex's dark eyes, which could be fierce and intimidating when tracking a suspect, suddenly appeared soft, almost gentle. He looked at Emma not as a K-9 officer evaluating a situation, but as a dog looking at a friend. "Oh my God," Officer Mitchell whispered, so quietly that only the people closest to him heard it. "I've never seen him do that." Sarah's heart was still pounding, but the immediate terror was beginning to transform into something else. Confusion, wonder. She still didn't trust the situation. Her maternal instincts were screaming at her to grab Emma and run, but Rex's body language was undeniably changing from alert assessment to something that almost looked like acceptance. Emma, encouraged by the tail wag, took a tiny step closer. "Good doggy," she said, her voice filled with delight. Rex's tail wagged faster. The crowd audibly gasped again, but this time it wasn't a gasp of fear. It was a gasp of astonishment. What happened next would be replayed millions of times on screens around the world, analyzed by child psychologists, dog behaviorists, and experts in human-animal interaction. It would be slowed down, zoomed in, and studied frame by frame. But in the moment, it simply unfolded as naturally as breathing. Rex slowly lowered his massive head, bringing his nose down to Emma's level. His movements were deliberate and careful, the way one might approach a butterfly without wanting to scare it away. His tail continued its steady wag. His ears remained soft and relaxed. Emma's face lit up like Christmas morning. "He likes me, Mama," she called out, not taking her eyes off Rex. Sarah still couldn't speak. Her throat was tight with emotion, a confusing mixture of residual fear, relief, and something else she couldn't quite name. She managed a weak nod, though Emma wasn't looking at her anyway. Rex sniffed Emma's outstretched hand with his black nose. His eyes half closed, processing her scent more carefully now. Chalk dust, strawberry shampoo, a hint of peanut butter from lunch. The innocence that emanated from this tiny human in waves. No threat, no danger, just kindness, pure, unfiltered, uncomplicated kindness. And then Rex did something that made Officer Mitchell's mouth fall completely open. The German Shepherd took another step forward, closing the remaining distance between himself and Emma. Then, with a gentleness that seemed impossible for an 85-pound police dog, Rex pressed his cold nose against Emma's cheek and nuzzled her. Nuzzled her. A trained police K-9, certified in suspect apprehension and protection work, was nuzzling a 3-year-old girl like she was the most precious thing in the world. Emma giggled, that pure, uninhibited laugh that children make when something delights them beyond words. The sound broke the spell that had frozen the crowd. Several people gasped. Mrs. started crying behind her phone camera. Mr. shook his head in disbelief. The Martinez baby, sensing the change in atmosphere, stopped fussing and cooed instead. I've never, Officer Mitchell started to say, then stopped, unable to find the words. He looked at his partner, his highly trained, professional, by-the-book partner acting like a completely different dog. Rex has never done anything like this, ever. He's always professional during public demonstrations, always, but it's like he knows she's just a baby, Mrs. finished softly, still filming. Like he understands she's innocent. Sarah finally found her voice. Emma, sweetheart, we need to give the officer and his dog some space. But Emma had already wrapped her tiny arms as far around Rex's neck as they would reach, which wasn't very far considering his size. I love you, doggy, she said simply. And Rex, the trained police K-9 who had tracked criminals through dangerous neighborhoods, who had protected Officer Mitchell in life-threatening situations, who maintained professional composure in all circumstances, closed his eyes and leaned into the hug. Officer Mitchell stood there, his hand still hovering uselessly near his belt, completely at a loss. In 3 years of partnership, he thought he knew everything about Rex. The dog's signals, his behaviors, his reactions to every situation. But this was something new entirely, something he'd never seen before and might never see again. What just happened? Mr. asked, voicing what everyone was thinking. Officer Mitchell could only shake his head, a smile slowly spreading across his face. I think, he said quietly, watching his partner embrace a toddler with infinite gentleness, I think Rex just made a friend. Emma pulled back from the hug and looked up at Rex with shining eyes. You're the best friend ever, she declared with the absolute certainty that only a 3-year-old can possess. Rex's tail wagged harder, and if dogs could smile, he was definitely smiling. No one knew it yet, but Mrs. Shaking phone had captured every single second of the encounter. The fear, the tension, the 2 simple words, and the miraculous response. The video was already uploading to her Facebook page, where she typed a caption with trembling fingers. I just watched something impossible. A 3-year-old girl just said, "Hi, friend," to a police dog, and I swear the dog understood. Within hours, the world would see what everyone on this quiet street in Monroe, Ohio had just witnessed. But for now, in this perfect moment, there was just Emma, Rex, and 2 words that had somehow bridged the gap between a tiny child and a powerful police dog. 2 words that would soon echo around the world. For the next 15 minutes, the entire neighborhood witnessed something that every expectation about trained police dogs. Rex, who had been conditioned through thousands of hours of rigorous training to maintain professional distance during public interactions, had completely abandoned his usual demeanor. Instead, he sat on the pavement like an oversized puppy, allowing Emma to pat his head, scratch behind his ears, and tell him elaborate stories about her stuffed animals at home. Officer Jake Mitchell stood nearby, his arms crossed, a mixture of bewilderment and amusement playing across his face. He kept checking Rex for any signs of stress or discomfort, the subtle signals he'd been trained to recognize over their 3 years together. Ears pinned back, no. Whale eye, no. Lip licking or yawning, no. Weight shifting away, absolutely not. If anything, Rex seemed to be leaning into Emma's attention, his eyes half closed in contentment. I literally don't know what to tell you, Officer Mitchell said to Sarah, who had finally relaxed enough to breathe normally, though she still stood close enough to intervene if needed. This is not Rex, or rather it is Rex, but a version of Rex I've never seen. He tolerates children during demonstrations. He's patient with them, but this, he gestured at his partner, who was now letting Emma examine his police vest with intense 3-year-old curiosity. This is something else entirely. Sarah laughed nervously, relief flooding through her system now that the initial terror had passed. I'm so sorry. Emma just takes off sometimes. She has no fear, which usually terrifies me, but today, she trailed off, watching her daughter. I've never seen her connect with an animal like this so quickly, not even with our own dog. Hi, friend, Emma was saying to Rex again, her small hand resting on his head. Do you live in a police house? Do you have toys? I have lots of toys. My favorite is Mr. Whiskers. He's a cat but not a real cat. A stuffed cat. Do you like cats? Rex's tail thumped against the pavement with each question, as if he understood every word. The crowd that had gathered had grown larger. Word had spread quickly through the neighborhood. You have to see this. There's a little girl with the police dog, and it's the sweetest thing ever. People were recording on their phones now, capturing different angles of the interaction. Children who had been kept at a safe distance by their cautious parents were now creeping closer, emboldened by Emma's fearless example. Mrs. had never stopped recording. Her arm was getting tired, but there was no way she was putting her phone down. She had a feeling, a deep, inexplicable certainty, that she was documenting something important, something special. She'd been a teacher for 35 years before retiring, and she'd learned to trust her instincts about meaningful moments. This was one of them. "Can other kids come meet him too?" asked Tyler, Mr.'s younger son, a shy 8-year-old who had been watching from behind his father. Officer Mitchell looked at Rex, who seemed more relaxed than he'd ever been during a public demonstration. "You know what? Yeah, let's do this properly. Rex clearly wants to be social today." He raised his voice to address the growing crowd. "All right, folks, since Rex has decided to go off script today, let's turn this into a proper meet and greet. Kids can come up in small groups to pet him, but we're going to do it the right way. I'll show you the proper way to approach a dog, even a friendly one." Over the next 20 minutes, Officer Mitchell conducted an impromptu lesson on dog safety, using Rex and Emma as his demonstration team. Emma, thrilled to be the center of attention and absolutely delighted to be Rex's special helper, followed Officer Mitchell's gentle instructions with surprising focus for a 3-year-old. "Always ask the owner first," Officer Mitchell explained as parents and children gathered in a semicircle. "Even if a dog looks friendly, you need permission. Then let the dog sniff your hand first. Make a loose fist like Emma's doing. See that? Good job, Emma." Emma beamed with pride, holding her small fist out for Rex to sniff again, even though he'd smelled her hand dozens of times by now. Rex obliged, touching his nose to her knuckles, then licked her hand gently. "He kissed me," Emma squealed with laughter, wiping her hand on her dress. "He really likes me." "He sure does," Officer Mitchell agreed, shaking his head in continued amazement. "Now when you pet a dog, especially a dog you don't know well, pet them on their shoulder or chest first, not on top of their head. Some dogs find that threatening. Emma, can you show everyone?" Emma carefully placed her hand on Rex's shoulder, patting gently. "Like this." "Perfect. See how relaxed Rex is. That's because Emma is being gentle and respectful. Even though Rex is clearly comfortable with her, she's still treating him nicely." What happened next became the most photographed moment of the afternoon. Emma, following some instinct only toddlers possess, suddenly leaned forward and kissed Rex right on his nose. The big German shepherd went completely still for a fraction of a second, and then, in a gesture that made every parent in the crowd melt, Rex gently licked Emma's cheek in return. "Oh my God," Mrs. Martinez whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "Did you see that? He kissed her back." The crowd collectively sighed. Cameras clicked. Phone cameras captured the moment from a dozen different angles. It was the kind of pure, innocent interaction that transcended species and reminded everyone watching why humans and dogs had bonded thousands of years ago. Emma giggled and threw her arms around Rex's neck again. "You're my best friend now," she declared with absolute certainty. "Better than Sarah from preschool. She doesn't even share her crayons." Officer Mitchell couldn't help but laugh. "Well, Rex is pretty good at sharing. He shares his time helping people, keeping the community safe, finding lost people." He paused, looking at his partner with genuine affection. "And apparently, he's really good at making friends with little girls named Emma." Sarah had relaxed considerably, though she still kept a watchful eye on her daughter. She'd pulled out her own phone and was recording now, wanting to capture this moment for her husband, David, who was going to absolutely lose his mind when he heard about this. He'd been the one warning her just that morning. Emma's going to give you a heart attack one of these days with her fearless stunts. Well, he wasn't wrong. As other children began to approach Rex under Officer Mitchell's careful supervision, something remarkable happened. Rex remained patient and gentle with each child, but his attention kept returning to Emma. When she stepped back to let other kids have their turn, Rex's eyes followed her. When she came back within reach, his tail wagged faster. It was clear to everyone watching that a genuine bond had formed between the 3-year-old and the police dog. "This is unprecedented," Officer Mitchell told Sarah quietly while supervising a group of children who were petting Rex. "I've worked with several K-9 units over my career, and I've never seen a police dog form such an immediate attachment to someone, especially a child. Rex is friendly when he needs to be, but he's a working dog. He's usually all business, but with Emma," he shook his head, smiling, "it's like she flipped a switch in him I didn't know existed." "Is that normal?" Sarah asked, concerned. "I mean, will it affect his police work?" No, Officer Mitchell assured her. "Rex knows the difference between work time and social time. When the vest is on and we're responding to a call, he's 100% professional. But right now, he's off duty, and apparently he's decided that Emma is his new favorite person in the world." Emma had worked her way back to Rex's side, carefully navigating around the other children. "Excuse me, coming through, I'm his special friend," she announced with the confidence only a 3-year-old could possess. The other kids, charmed by her boldness, made room for her. "Rex, look." Emma pulled a piece of blue chalk from her dress pocket, the same chalk she'd been using for her drawings earlier. "This is my favorite color. It's sky blue. Do you like blue?" Rex tilted his head, a gesture so human-like that several people laughed. Emma took his head tilt as confirmation. "I knew you'd like blue. When I go home, I'm going to draw a picture of you, a really good one, better than my picture of Biscuit with wings." "Who's Biscuit?" Officer Mitchell asked, amused. "Our dog," Emma explained. "But he's old and sleeps all the time. He doesn't play like Rex. Rex is fun." As if understanding that his energy level was being compared to another dog's, Rex stood up and executed a perfect play bow, front legs stretched forward, rear end in the air, tail wagging. It was an invitation to play, something Officer Mitchell had seen Rex do maybe 3 times in 3 years, and never during a public event. Emma's eyes went wide. "He wants to play. Mama, can I play with him?" Before Sarah could answer, Officer Mitchell laughed. "Easy there, Rex. Emma's a little small for the games you usually play." To Emma, he explained, "Rex likes to play chase and tug-of-war, but those games might be too rough for you." Emma considered this seriously. "What about gentle games? Can we play gentle?" Officer Mitchell pulled a tennis ball from his duty belt. He always carried one for Rex during breaks. "Tell you what, you can roll the ball and Rex will bring it back to you. That's a nice gentle game. Want to try?" For the next 10 minutes, Emma and Rex played the gentlest game of fetch ever witnessed. Emma would roll the tennis ball a few feet. Rex would trot over to get it, not his usual explosive sprint but a careful, measured walk, and then bring it back and drop it at Emma's feet. Each time, Emma would clap her hands and say, "Good job, friend." And each time, Rex's tail would wag like he just received the highest praise possible. The sun was beginning to sink lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the street. Officer Mitchell checked his watch and realized they'd been there for over 45 minutes. He had other neighborhood stops to make, but he found himself reluctant to leave. This had turned into something special, something that went beyond a simple K-9 demonstration. "Emma," Sarah said gently, "Officer Mitchell and Rex probably need to go meet other people in other neighborhoods." Emma's face fell. "But I don't want Rex to go. We're having fun." Rex, as if sensing her distress, moved closer and gently nuzzled her hand. Emma wrapped her arms around his neck one more time. "Will I ever see you again?" she asked, her voice small and sad. Officer Mitchell found himself unexpectedly moved. He knelt down to Emma's level. "You know what? I think Rex would really like to see you again. How about this? I'll talk to your mom and get her phone number, and maybe we can arrange for you to visit Rex at the police station sometime. Would you like that?" Emma's face lit up like fireworks. "Really? I can visit? Mama, can I? Please, please, please." Sarah couldn't help but smile. If Officer Mitchell says it's okay, then yes, we can arrange a visit. "It's more than okay," Officer Mitchell said, standing up and pulling out his phone. "In fact, I think the department would love to have Emma as a special friend to our K-9 unit. What we witnessed here today, this kind of positive interaction between a child and a police dog, this is exactly what we want to promote in the community." As Sarah and Officer Mitchell exchanged contact information, Mrs. finally lowered her phone. Her arm was aching, but she had captured nearly an hour of footage. She looked at the video length on her screen and smiled. This was going to make quite a post on Facebook. "Say goodbye to Rex, Emma," Sarah said gently. Emma hugged Rex one more time, pressing her cheek against his fur. "Bye, friend. I'll see you really soon, okay? And I'll bring you the picture I draw." Rex licked her face one more time, his tail wagging steadily. As Officer Mitchell and Rex walked back to their cruiser, Rex kept looking back at Emma. The little girl stood in her driveway, waving enthusiastically, her pink dress covered in chalk dust and dog hair, her face beaming with joy. "Well, partner," Officer Mitchell said to Rex as they got into the vehicle, "you certainly made today interesting. I'm not sure what it was about that little girl, but I think you found yourself a friend for life." Rex's tail thumped against the seat, and Officer Mitchell could have sworn his partner looked happy. Neither of them had any idea that in less than 12 hours, the video of their encounter with Emma would be viewed by millions of people around the world. They didn't know that "Hi, friend" was about to become a global phenomenon. They just knew that something special had happened on this ordinary Saturday afternoon in Monroe, Ohio. Something that proved sometimes the most powerful connections happen when we least expect them, and that the language of friendship, whether you're 3 years old or a trained police dog, is universal. As the cruiser drove away, Emma turned to her mother and said, "That was the best day ever, Mama." And somewhere in the universe, the internet was about to agree. Mrs. had lived on Maple Street in Monroe, Ohio for 43 years. She'd seen neighborhood kids grow up, get married, and bring their own children back to visit. She taught English literature at Monroe High School for 35 years before retiring. She understood the power of story, the importance of capturing moments, and the way certain narratives could touch the human heart. But even with all her experience, she had no idea what she was about to unleash on the world. That Saturday evening, after the police cruiser had driven away and the neighbors had returned to their homes, sat at her kitchen table with a cup of chamomile tea and her smartphone. Her arm still ached from holding it up for so long, but she didn't regret a second of the footage she'd captured. She had nearly an hour of video from various angles. She'd moved around the gathering crowd, getting different perspectives of Emma and Rex's extraordinary interaction. Wasn't particularly tech-savvy. Her grandson had set up her Facebook account 3 years ago, and she mostly used it to share recipes, pictures of her garden, and the occasional inspirational quote. She had 247 friends, mostly former students, fellow teachers, family members, and neighbors. Her posts typically received maybe 15 or 20 likes, mostly from people being polite. But as she scrolled through her footage, watching Emma sprint toward Rex, hearing those 2 precious words, "Hi, friend," and seeing the massive German Shepherd's gentle response, knew she had captured something extraordinary. Her hands trembled slightly as she selected the clearest 43-second clip that encompassed the entire encounter. Emma's fearless run, the crowd's collective gasp, those 2 magical words, and Rex's tender nuzzle. She uploaded the video to Facebook at 7:47 p.m. EST on Saturday evening. Her caption was simple: "Today I witnessed something I can barely believe, even though I recorded it myself. A fearless 3-year-old girl named Emma ran up to a police dog and said, "Hi, friend," and what happened next restored my faith in pure connection. This is what innocence looks like. This is what breaking down barriers looks like. This is what we all need to see right now. Hi, friend Monroe, Ohio, faith in humanity. She pressed post, finished her tea, and went to bed, expecting that maybe her daughter in Cleveland would see it in the morning, or perhaps a few of her former students would share it with a smiley face emoji. Had no idea she just lit a match that would start a wildfire. By 9:30 p.m., less than 2 hours after posting, the video had 1,200 views and 156 shares. His phone had started buzzing with notifications, but she'd already turned it off for the night, as was her habit. She slept peacefully, dreaming about her garden, completely unaware that her Facebook page was exploding. By midnight, the video had been viewed 15,000 times. Someone had shared it to a popular community Facebook group called Faith in Humanity Restored, which had 2.3 million followers. From there, it spread like wildfire to other groups. We Love Dogs, Wholesome Content, Parents of Toddlers, Police Appreciation, and dozens more. By 3:00 a.m., a night shift worker at BuzzFeed's trending content desk spotted the video. She watched it 3 times, felt tears welling up in her eyes, and immediately forwarded it to her supervisor with the subject line, "This needs to be on the site immediately." By 6:00 a.m. Sunday morning, when woke up and reached for her phone out of habit, she was greeted by a screen frozen with notifications. Her phone had literally stopped processing them because there were too many. She stared at the device in confusion, wondering if it was broken. When she finally got it working and opened Facebook, gasped audibly. The video had 287,000 views. Her friend count had jumped to over 3,000 with pending requests still flooding in. Her notifications exceeded 10,000. Comments were pouring in faster than she could read them. "This made me cry happy tears," wrote someone from Australia. "My faith in humanity is restored," commented someone from Brazil. "I've watched this 20 times. That dog knew she was just a baby being friendly. Animals are so pure," wrote a user from the United Kingdom. "This is the most beautiful thing I've seen in years. Thank you for sharing," said someone from Japan. His hands shook as she scrolled. What had she done? She immediately called her daughter, who picked up groggily. "Mom, it's 6 in the morning on a Sunday. Something's happening with my Facebook. I posted a video yesterday, and now I have thousands of notifications, and I don't understand what's going on, and I think I broke something." "Slow down, Mom. What video?" Explained about Emma and Rex, about the encounter she'd filmed, about posting it before bed. There was a pause on the other end of the line, then said slowly, "Mom, what's the name of your Facebook page?" "Just my name, why?" Another pause. "Mom, I need you to go to Google and search 'Girl Says Hi Friend to Police Dog.' Can you do that?" Fumbled with her phone, opening her web browser. She typed in the search terms with shaking fingers. The results made her jaw drop. BuzzFeed, 3-year-old says 2 words to police dog. What happens next will melt your heart. Good Morning America's website. Viral video shows heartwarming moment between toddler and K-9 officer. CNN, 2 words that united the internet. Child's greeting to police dog goes viral. The Dodo, little girl runs up to police dog and says, "Hi, friend." His reaction is everything. "Oh my God," whispered. "It's everywhere. How is it everywhere? I just posted it last night." "Mom," said, her voice a mixture of amusement and awe, "I think you just broke the internet." By 9:00 a.m., Sarah's phone had also become unusable from notifications. She'd been tagged in post, and now her own Facebook page was being flooded with friend requests and messages. Her phone was ringing constantly, numbers she didn't recognize, some with area codes from across the country. "David, I don't understand what's happening," she told her husband, who was staring at his own phone in shock. He'd received a text from his brother in California at 6:30 a.m. "Dude, is that Emma? Your daughter is famous." David had thought his brother was joking until he opened Facebook and saw the video that had been shared to his timeline 47 times by different people. "Sarah," he said slowly, "I think Emma's video went viral." "What video?" "The one Mrs. took. It has 500,000 views." "No, wait," he refreshed his phone. 600,000 views, it's still climbing." Emma, blissfully unaware of the digital firestorm, was eating chocolate chip pancakes and watching cartoons in her pajamas. "Can we visit Rex today?" she asked between bites. "I want to bring him my picture." Sarah and David looked at each other, then back at their phones, which wouldn't stop buzzing. By 11:00 a.m., Officer Jake Mitchell was getting calls from the Monroe Police Department's Public Affairs Office. "Jake, what the hell is going on? We're getting media requests from national news outlets about you and Rex and some little girl. CNN wants a statement. Good Morning America wants to do an interview. The phone hasn't stopped ringing for 2 hours." Mitchell, who had been enjoying a lazy Sunday morning, pulled up Facebook on his tablet. When he saw the video and the view count that now exceeded 2 million, he nearly dropped his coffee. "Holy!" He watched the clip, seeing himself in the background, seeing Rex's unprecedented gentleness, seeing Emma's fearless approach. "This is from yesterday. How does it already have 2 million views?" "Try 3 million, his chief corrected. "It's gaining about 100,000 views every 10 minutes. Jake, this is huge. This is bigger than anything that's ever happened to our department. We need to figure out how to handle this." By 2:00 p.m., the video had been picked up by every major news outlet in the United States. Entertainment Tonight ran it. People magazine posted it. Ellen shared it on her social media with the caption, "This is everything." The video had been translated and shared on international platforms. In China, Instagram worldwide, TikTok it had been reposted and already had 10 million views. The hashtag #HiFriend was trending on Twitter, where it had been tweeted and retweeted over 50,000 times. Users were sharing their own stories of unexpected friendships, their own encounters with police dogs, their own children's fearless moments. The conversation had expanded beyond just the video itself. People were discussing police-community relations, the innocence of children, the intelligence of dogs, the power of simple kindness. By 5:00 p.m., Sarah's doorbell rang. She opened it cautiously to find a news crew from the local CBS affiliate. "Mrs., we'd love to talk to you about Emma and the video." "How did you get my address?" Sarah asked, alarmed. The reporter looked slightly embarrassed. "Social media. Your Facebook post was public and it showed your location. Look, I know this must be overwhelming, but this story is incredible. People want to know more about Emma, about what happened, about." Sarah closed the door, her heart pounding. She turned to David. "We need to make our social media private, now." But it was too late. The cat was out of the bag. By evening, their home address was being shared in internet forums. Well-meaning but intrusive fans were posting directions to their street, suggesting pilgrimage visits to the place where the video was filmed. The Monroe Police Department had to assign an officer to patrol their street after someone showed up wanting to meet Emma and leave gifts. Meanwhile was having a crisis of conscience. She hadn't asked the family for permission to post the video. It had been a public event on a public street, and she'd acted on impulse. Now she was worried she'd invaded their privacy or caused them problems. She tried calling Sarah, but Sarah's phone was so overwhelmed with calls that it kept going straight to voicemail. By 10:00 p.m. Sunday night, less than 24 hours after had posted the video, it had been viewed over 25 million times across all platforms. It had been featured on every major news network's evening broadcast. International outlets had picked it up. BBC ran a segment. News programs in Germany, France, Spain, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and Brazil had all covered it. The video had become more than just a viral moment. It had become a cultural phenomenon, a symbol of hope and connection in a world that often felt divided. Comment sections were filled with people from different countries, different backgrounds, different political beliefs, all agreeing on one thing. This moment was beautiful, pure, and exactly what the world needed to see. Emma, who had simply wanted to say hello to a dog, had no idea that her 2 words had just circled the entire globe in less than a day. She fell asleep that Sunday night clutching the picture she'd drawn of Rex, a somewhat abstract rendering of a black and brown dog with a big smile, completely unaware that she had become one of the most talked about people on the internet. Outside her window, a news van was parked across the street. Inside her parents' phones, interview requests from Ellen and the Today Show were piling up in email inboxes. On social media, the video continued to spread, shared by celebrities, politicians, and ordinary people who all wanted to be part of something that felt genuinely good. The internet, so often a place of division and negativity, had found something to collectively celebrate. And it all started with a retired teacher's shaky phone video, a fearless 3-year-old, and 2 simple words: "Hi, friend." By Monday morning, when the sun rose on Monroe, Ohio, Emma would wake up to discover that the entire world wanted to meet her. The video that started with 247 friends on Facebook had reached over 50 million people in less than 48 hours. And it was still climbing. Monday morning arrived in Monroe, Ohio like a freight train nobody saw coming. Sarah woke up at 6:15 a.m. to the sound of voices outside her window, not the usual quiet suburban morning sounds of birds chirping and distant traffic, but actual human voices, multiple voices. She stumbled to the window, still half asleep, and pulled back the curtain. Her street looked like a carnival. 5 news vans were parked along the curb, their satellite dishes pointed toward the sky. Camera crews were setting up equipment on the sidewalk. Reporters were checking their hair in compact mirrors and rehearsing their opening lines. At least 24 people, strangers, were standing in clusters on the street, some holding signs that read, "We love Emma," and "Hi, friend." One person had even brought a life-sized cardboard cutout of a German shepherd. "David," Sarah's voice came out as a strangled whisper shout. "David, wake up! There are people everywhere." David jolted awake and joined her at the window. His eyes went wide. "What the hell? How did this happen? It's been 2 days." Their doorbell rang, then rang again. Then someone knocked. Sarah's phone, which she'd finally managed to silence overnight by turning off all notifications, showed 387 missed calls and over 2,000 unread messages when she picked it up. "We can't go out there," Sarah said, panic rising in her chest. "We can't let Emma see this. She'll be terrified, or worse, she'll run outside and—" "Mama, why are there so many people outside?" Emma's sleepy voice came from the hallway. She was standing in her pajamas, the ones with puppies all over them, rubbing her eyes and dragging her stuffed cat, Mr. Whiskers. Sarah and David exchanged a look of pure parental panic. How do you explain to a 3-year-old that she's become an overnight internet sensation? How do you tell your toddler that millions of people around the world have watched her say hello to a dog? "There are some people who want to talk to mommy and daddy," Sarah said carefully, kneeling down to Emma's level. "About you and Rex. Remember the nice dog from Saturday?" Emma's face lit up instantly. "Rex, is Rex here? Can I see him?" She tried to run to the window, but David gently intercepted her. "Not right now, sweetheart. Rex is at work. But lots of people saw you being nice to Rex, and they thought it was really special." "It was special," Emma agreed enthusiastically, "because Rex is my friend." The doorbell rang again, followed by another knock. Then Sarah's phone started ringing, a number with a New York area code. Then David's phone. Then the house phone they barely ever used. "This is insane," David muttered, running his hand through his hair. "We need help. We need to figure out what to do." The Monroe Police Department was experiencing its own version of chaos. Chief Robert arrived at the station at 7:00 a.m. to find the parking lot overflowing with news vans and the front desk officer looking overwhelmed. The phone system had crashed twice already from the volume of calls. The department's email server was struggling under the weight of thousands of interview requests, community questions, and media inquiries from around the globe. "Chief, we've got Good Morning America on line 1, CNN on line 2, and the BBC Holding on line 3, Sergeant Martinez said, looking frazzled. "The Today Show sent someone in person. She's waiting in the lobby. We've had calls from Japan, Germany, Australia, and someone from a morning show in Brazil. Our website crashed from traffic, and we have approximately 40 reporters camped outside wanting a statement about Rex and the little girl." Chief, a 30-year law enforcement veteran who had handled his share of crises, had never encountered anything like this. "Where's Mitchell?" "On his way in. He's been fielding calls since 5 a.m. His personal cell number somehow got leaked online." Officer Jake Mitchell arrived 15 minutes later, looking like he hadn't slept. Rex trotted beside him, completely oblivious to the frenzy he'd helped create. The moment they stepped into the station, cameras started flashing. Reporters shouted questions. "Officer Mitchell, how does it feel to have the most famous police dog in America? Can we get a statement about the viral video? Will Rex be doing any interviews? Is it true that Emma might visit the station?" Mitchell pushed through the crowd, Rex staying professionally calm beside him, and finally made it inside. Chief met them in the hallway. "Jake, my office now." 5 minutes later, Mitchell sat across from his chief, Rex lying calmly at his feet while rubbed his temples. "Okay, let's think about this strategically. This video, this moment, has captured something that people desperately want to see right now. Positive police-community interaction, connection, innocence. We can use this." "Use it," Mitchell said carefully. "Sir, that's a 3-year-old child and her family. We can't exploit." "I'm not talking about exploitation," interrupted. "I'm talking about opportunity. This department has been trying to build stronger community relationships for years. This video has done more for police-community relations in 2 days than our last 5 initiatives combined. We need to handle this right, but we also need to recognize that this is significant." Mitchell's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. "It's a producer from Good Morning America. They want to fly us, me, Rex, and the family to New York for a live interview. All expenses paid." Leaned back in his chair. "That's a national platform. That's millions of viewers. If we do this right, if the family agrees, we could turn this into something genuinely meaningful. But first, we need to protect that family. Have you talked to them?" "I tried calling Sarah this morning. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I'm guessing she's overwhelmed." "Then that's our first priority. We get a patrol car over there, we make sure they're safe and not being harassed, and we set up a meeting. Today." By 10:00 a.m., Officer Lisa was stationed outside the home, keeping the crowd at a respectful distance. The news vans remained, but at least the reporters weren't knocking on the door anymore. Inside, Sarah and David sat at their kitchen table with their laptops open, scrolling through an endless stream of media requests. "Ellen wants us on her show," David said, his voice flat with disbelief. "Ellen the Ellen." "People emailed," Sarah added, "and someone from Jimmy and James, and there's an offer here from a publisher who wants to make a children's book about Emma and Rex." Emma was in the living room, completely absorbed in coloring a new picture, this one of her and Rex playing together. She hummed happily, adding purple flowers around the border, unaware that her parents were having an existential crisis in the next room. Sarah's email pinged with a new message. This one was from Officer Mitchell. "David, it's from the police department. They want to meet with us today to discuss managing the situation and exploring positive opportunities." "Do we want opportunities?" David asked. "I mean, this is Emma's life we're talking about, her privacy, her childhood. Do we want her growing up in the public eye?" I don't know, Sarah admitted, feeling tears of frustration prick her eyes. I never thought about this. She's 3 years old. She just wanted to say hi to a dog. How did this become this? The meeting was scheduled for 2:00 p.m. at the Monroe Police Department, in a private conference room away from the media circus outside. Sarah's mother came to watch Emma. There was no way they were bringing their daughter into that chaos. As Sarah and David left through their back door to avoid the cameras, Emma waved goodbye cheerfully, returning to her coloring. In the conference room, Chief, Officer Mitchell, Rex, and a woman introduced as Hayes, a crisis communications consultant the department had brought in, waited for the family. When Sarah and David arrived, they looked exhausted and overwhelmed. "First of all," Chief began, "I want to apologize. This has spiraled in a way none of us could have anticipated, and I want you to know that your families and privacy are our top priorities." Sarah let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "Thank you. We're not angry about the video. Mrs. didn't do anything wrong. It was a public street, but this is. It's too much. It's scary." Hayes leaned forward. "I understand. I've worked with families who've gone through viral moments before, and I can tell you that you have options. You can retreat completely, make a statement that you want privacy, and largely disappear from the spotlight. Most media will respect that, though interest might linger for a while. Or you can engage strategically, do 1 or 2 major interviews on your terms, control the narrative, and then step back. Both are valid choices." "What do you think we should do?" David asked. Mitchell spoke up. "If I can offer a perspective, what happened between Emma and Rex was special. I've seen it affect people. Officers in our department have been getting emotional telling the story. We've had community members who've been hesitant about police reach out, wanting to talk, wanting to connect. That 2-word greeting, 'Hi, friend,' has become something bigger than just a cute video. It's become a symbol." "But Emma's just a baby," Sarah said, her voice cracking. "She doesn't understand any of this." "And she doesn't have to," assured her. "If you choose to do any media appearances, we keep them brief, age-appropriate, and focused on the positive message rather than making Emma perform. You control what happens. You can say no to anything that doesn't feel right." The room fell silent as Sarah and David looked at each other, having one of those wordless conversations that only married couples can have. Finally, Sarah spoke. "If we do this, and I'm saying if, it has to be on our terms. Nothing that exploits Emma, nothing that makes her uncomfortable, and we want to use this to promote something good, not just us being famous for being famous." Chief nodded. "What if we focus the message on community-police relations, on teaching children that police officers and police dogs are here to help, on the power of simple kindness? And we could help support K-9 units," Mitchell added, Rex's tail thumping at his feet as if agreeing. "A lot of departments struggle with funding for their dogs, equipment, medical care, training. If this attention could help with that." Sarah felt something shift in her chest. Maybe this didn't have to be just chaos. Maybe there was a way to turn this viral moment into something meaningful. "Okay," she said slowly. "We'll do Good Morning America. 1 interview, we tell our story, we talk about kindness and community, and then we assess. But the moment it feels wrong for Emma, we stop. Deal?" "Deal," everyone in the room agreed. Pulled out her phone. "I'll contact GMA's producers. They'll be thrilled. This will be huge." As Sarah and David left the police station through a side exit to avoid the media, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Emma just asked when she can see Rex again. She misses her friend." Sarah smiled despite her exhaustion. At the heart of all this chaos, the millions of views, the international attention, the overwhelming media frenzy, was something pure and simple. A little girl who made a friend. Maybe if they could keep that at the center of everything, they could navigate this impossible situation. By that evening, the announcement went out. Emma, her family, Officer Jake Mitchell, and Rex would appear on Good Morning America's Thursday broadcast. The internet erupted with excitement. "Hi Friend" trended again. The video's view count surged past 75 million. And in Monroe, Ohio, Emma finished her picture of her and Rex, held it up proudly, and asked her grandmother, "Can we give this to Rex tomorrow?" "Soon, sweetheart," her grandmother promised. "Very soon." Emma smiled, satisfied, and went back to playing with her toys, blissfully unaware that in 2 days she would be on national television, sharing her simple message of friendship with millions of people who desperately needed to hear it. The world had come calling, and the family, with trepidation but hope, had decided to answer. Thursday morning arrived with the kind of nervous energy that makes time feel both too fast and too slow. Sarah had been awake since 4:00 a.m., even though their car service to the Good Morning America studio wasn't scheduled until 5:30. She'd checked on Emma 4 times already, watching her daughter sleep peacefully, one arm wrapped around Mr. Whiskers, completely unaware that in a few hours she'd be on national television. David found Sarah standing in Emma's doorway at 4:47 a.m. "Can't sleep either," he whispered. "What if we're making a mistake?" Sarah said quietly. "What if this is too much for her? What if she gets scared or overwhelmed or—" "Then we leave," David said firmly, wrapping his arm around his wife. "We told them that. The second Emma is uncomfortable, we're done. But Sarah, I think she's going to be fine. You know our daughter, she's fearless." "That's what I'm afraid of," Sarah said with a weak smile. At 5:30 a.m. sharp, a black SUV pulled up to their house. Officer Mitchell and Rex were already inside, along with Hayes, the communications consultant. Mitchell looked nervous in his dress uniform, his badge polished to a mirror shine. Rex, wearing his official K9 vest, sat calmly beside him, though his tail started wagging the moment Emma climbed into the vehicle. "Rex," Emma squealed with delight, immediately trying to scramble over her parents to get to the German Shepherd. "I missed you. I made you a picture. Mama, where's the picture?" Sarah pulled out the carefully protected drawing from her bag, Emma's colorful rendering of her and Rex playing together, complete with purple flowers and a bright yellow sun. Rex's tail thumped harder as Emma showed it to him, holding it inches from his face. "Do you like it? That's you and that's me, and those are flowers because flowers are pretty and I think you like pretty things." Mitchell couldn't help but smile. "I think Rex loves it, Emma. We'll put it up in our office at the police station." The drive to New York City took 3 hours. Emma entertained everyone by singing songs, telling elaborate stories about her stuffed animals, and periodically declaring her love for Rex. The German Shepherd remained patient and gentle, occasionally nuzzling Emma's hand when she reached out to pet him. It was clear their bond hadn't diminished one bit in the 4 days since they'd first met. When they arrived at the ABC studios in Times Square at 8:45 a.m., the energy shifted dramatically. Producers rushed to greet them. Production assistants appeared with clipboards and headsets. A stylist approached Sarah asking about Emma's wardrobe. A makeup artist wanted to do just a little touch-up on everyone. The studio was a hive of controlled chaos, cameras being positioned, lighting adjusted, stage managers talking rapidly into their headsets. Emma's eyes went wide, taking it all in. For a moment, Sarah worried her daughter might be overwhelmed. But then Emma spotted the large cameras and said, "Mama, are those robot eyes?" The nearby cameraman laughed. "Kind of, yeah. They help us take pictures that go on TV." "Cool," Emma declared, her fear evaporating instantly. "Can Rex be on TV too?" "Rex is definitely going to be on TV," the cameraman assured her. "He's the star." They were led to a backstage green room where they could wait until it was time for their segment. A production assistant brought juice boxes for Emma, coffee for the adults, and a bowl of water for Rex. On the monitor mounted to the wall, they could watch the live broadcast. The current segment was about a new Broadway show. In 20 minutes, they would be on that couch. Robin Roberts, one of Good Morning America's beloved hosts, stopped by the green room to introduce herself and put everyone at ease. She knelt down to Emma's level with a warm smile. "Hi, Emma. I'm Robin. I heard you made a very special friend." Emma nodded enthusiastically. "Rex, he's a police dog and he's very good and very nice and he likes me." "I can see that," Robin said, watching Rex gaze at Emma with unmistakable affection. "You know what? When we go out there in a few minutes, I'm going to ask you some questions about Rex. Is that okay?" "Okay," Emma agreed happily. "Can I bring my picture?" "Absolutely. I'd love to see your picture." Robin turned to Sarah and David, her voice lower. "Don't worry. I have nieces and nephews. I know how to talk to kids. We'll keep this light, positive, and if Emma wants to get down and play with Rex instead of sitting still, that's perfectly fine. This isn't about getting a perfect interview. It's about capturing that genuine connection." Sarah felt her shoulders relax slightly. "Thank you." At 9:17 a.m. Eastern Time, with an estimated 12 million people watching live and millions more who would watch clips online later, the family, Officer Mitchell, and Rex walked onto the Good Morning America set. The studio audience, about 150 people who had gathered outside the studio windows, erupted in applause. Some were holding signs, "Hi, friend," and "We love Emma and Rex." The set was arranged with a long couch and several chairs. Rex was positioned on a special mat beside the couch. Emma, wearing her favorite pink dress, the same one from the video at her insistence, walked confidently onto the set, but then stopped abruptly when she saw all the people watching through the windows. Her hand reached for her mother's. "It's okay, sweetheart," Sarah whispered. "They're all friends." Emma looked up at the crowd, then at Rex, who was watching her calmly. She seemed to draw courage from the dog. Slowly, she smiled and waved at the audience. They went wild, cheering louder. Robin Roberts began the segment by showing the viral video on the large screens. Even having seen it hundreds of times, watching it on national television with millions of viewers made Sarah's breath catch. There was Emma running toward Rex. There were those two perfect words, "Hi, friend." And there was Rex's gentle response. The studio audience collectively. "Emma," Robin said gently, sitting forward, "can you tell me why you ran up to Rex?" Emma looked at Rex, then at Robin. "Because he looked nice, and I like dogs. We have a dog named Biscuit, but he's old and sleeps a lot. Rex doesn't sleep. Rex plays." The audience laughed warmly. "Were you scared at all? Rex is pretty big." Emma looked genuinely confused by the question. "No, why would I be scared? He's a friend." That simple statement, delivered with such pure, innocent certainty, seemed to hit everyone watching like a wave. Robin visibly blinked back tears. In living rooms across America, viewers reached for tissues. The studio audience was completely silent, hanging on every word from this tiny, fearless child. "Officer Mitchell," Robin turned to Jake, "you've worked with Rex for 3 years. Had you ever seen him react to someone the way he reacted to Emma?" Mitchell shook his head, his voice thick with emotion. "Never. Rex is always professional, always controlled, but something about Emma. It was like he recognized something pure in her. She didn't see a police dog or a uniform or anything intimidating. She just saw a potential friend, and Rex responded to that innocence." "Sarah, David," Robin addressed Emma's parents. "As parents, what went through your minds when Emma ran toward Rex?" Sarah laughed, though her eyes were wet. "Terror, absolute terror, I thought." She paused, composing herself. "I thought I was about to watch something horrible happen, but instead I watched my daughter teach all of us, a lesson about leading with kindness instead of fear." Then came the moment that would be replayed millions of times and become the most shared clip from the interview. Robin asked Emma, "What do you think people can learn from you and Rex?" Emma thought seriously for a moment, her little face scrunched up in concentration. Then she said, with the simple wisdom only a child can possess, that everyone can be friends if you're nice. You just have to say hi. The studio went completely silent. Robin pressed her hand to her chest, tears streaming freely down her face now. In the control room, producers were crying. Camera operators were wiping their eyes. The audience was openly weeping. David reached over and squeezed Sarah's hand, both of them overcome with pride and emotion. Officer Mitchell looked down at his boots, blinking rapidly. But the most beautiful moment was yet to come. As if sensing that the emotional atmosphere needed a release, Emma suddenly slid off the couch and walked over to Rex. Without prompting, without direction, she simply hugged him. The German Shepherd, on live national television, gently licked her face and rested his head on her small shoulder. The two of them stayed like that for what felt like an eternity but was probably only 10 seconds. A perfect tableau of cross-species friendship, of innocence and strength, of everything pure and good in the world. The camera operators captured it from every angle. The audience didn't make a sound, afraid to break the spell. Robin didn't try to redirect the interview. She just let the moment happen, understanding instinctively that this genuine, unscripted expression of love between a child and a dog was more powerful than any planned segment could ever be. When Emma finally pulled back, she looked at Rex and said, "I'm glad you're my friend." Rex's tail wagged, his eyes soft and warm, and if a dog could smile, he was definitely smiling. Robin somehow found her voice. I think I speak for everyone watching when I say that, Emma, you and Rex have given us all a gift today, a reminder of what's possible when we approach each other with open hearts. The segment ended with Emma sitting on the floor next to Rex, showing him her picture again, while the adults talked about the positive impact the video had already had, the thousands of dollars donated to K-9 units across the country, the improved community police dialogues in various cities, the countless messages from people saying the video had made them smile during difficult times. But America wasn't watching the adults talk. America was watching Emma and Rex, watching this perfect friendship that had somehow captured everything people desperately needed to see: hope, innocence, connection, and the simple power of saying, "Hi, friend." When the segment concluded and they went to commercial break, the studio erupted in applause. Strangers approached Sarah and David to thank them. Production assistants were openly crying. Robin Roberts hugged Emma and told her she was the bravest, sweetest girl I've ever met. Emma, for her part, seemed mostly confused about what all the fuss was about. "Can we get pancakes now?" she asked her parents. "I'm hungry." Within minutes of the segment airing, social media exploded. The hashtag #HiFriend trended worldwide again. The clip of Emma hugging Rex was shared over 500,000 times in the first hour. Major celebrities, Ellen, Chris, all shared the video with heartfelt captions. The Today Show announced they wanted to do a follow-up. Ellen's producers called before they'd even left the building. But more importantly, the message resonated. Schools across the country announced they would be teaching HiFriend lessons about kindness and overcoming fear. Police departments reported increased positive interactions with their communities. Parents shared stories of their own children being inspired by Emma's fearlessness. As they left the studio and climbed back into the SUV for the drive home, Emma fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from her early morning. She was curled up on the seat, her head resting against Rex's side, her hand still loosely holding his fur. The German Shepherd remained perfectly still, unwilling to disturb her. Officer Mitchell took a photo of them sleeping together. He didn't post it. This moment was just for them. But he knew he'd treasure that image forever. "She did good," David whispered, looking at his daughter with overwhelming love and pride. "She was perfect," Sarah agreed. "She was just herself." And that, everyone realized, was exactly why 12 million people had tuned in to watch. Because in a world that often felt complicated and divided, Emma had reminded everyone of something profoundly simple. Friendship doesn't require anything more than kindness, courage, and 2 little words. "Hi, friend." It was a message the world desperately needed to hear. And somehow, A 3-year-old girl and a police dog had delivered it perfectly. 3 weeks after the Good Morning America interview, Sarah stood in the Monroe Police Department's community room, surrounded by over 200 people, and realized that Emma's 2 words had created something far bigger than anyone could have imagined. What started as a viral video had transformed into a full-fledged movement, one that was changing communities across the entire country. The gathering was the first official Hi, Friend community event, organized by the Monroe Police Department in partnership with what had become known as the Emma and Rex Foundation, a nonprofit that Sarah and David had reluctantly started after being overwhelmed by people asking how they could contribute to the cause. The foundation's mission was simple: promote positive police-community relations, support K-9 units nationwide, and teach children that kindness and courage can break down any barrier. "I never thought we'd be here," Sarah whispered to David as they watched children line up to meet various police dogs that had been brought in from surrounding counties. 3 weeks ago, Emma just wanted to pet a dog. David squeezed her hand. "And now she's accidentally started a national movement, very on brand for our daughter." Emma herself was in her element, flitting from dog to dog like a tiny social butterfly, greeting each K-9 officer with her signature phrase. "Hi, friend," she'd say, and every single dog, no matter how stoic or professionally trained, seemed to soften at her approach. Rex, of course, stayed closest to her, his unofficial role as Emma's protector taken very seriously. But the changes extended far beyond Monroe, Ohio. The ripple effects of Emma's encounter with Rex had spread across the United States in ways that shocked law enforcement officials, community leaders, and social scientists alike. In Chicago, the police department had launched Operation Hi Friend, a program that brought K-9 units to neighborhoods where police-community relations had been strained for decades. Officer Johnson, a 10-year veteran, stood with his Belgian partner, Thor, at a community center on the south side, watching children who had been taught to fear police cautiously approach his dog. "A month ago, these kids would have run the other way when they saw my uniform," Johnson told a reporter from the Chicago Tribune. "Now, because of Emma, they're coming up and saying, 'Hi, friend,' to Thor. One little girl even brought him a drawing. Do you understand how significant that is? We're building bridges that have been burned for generations." The program's results were remarkable. In just 3 weeks, Chicago reported a 47% increase in positive police-community interactions in neighborhoods where K-9 units had visited. Children who had been taught to distrust law enforcement were now seeing officers as potential friends. Parents who had been wary were attending community meetings. The phrase, "Hi, friend," had become a symbol of reaching across divides. In Los Angeles, the police department created K-9 Reading Buddies, a program inspired directly by Emma's story. Police dogs visited elementary schools where children could read aloud to the dogs, combining literacy education with positive police interaction. The program was so successful that within 2 weeks, there was a 6-month waiting list of schools wanting to participate. "Emma showed us that children don't have inherent fear or bias," explained Doctor, a child psychologist consulting with the LAPD. "They learn those things. By introducing positive interactions early, we're literally rewiring how the next generation views law enforcement. It's profound." The K-9 units themselves were experiencing unprecedented support. In the 3 weeks since Emma's Good Morning America appearance, donations to police K-9 programs nationwide had exceeded $8.7 million. The Emma and Rex Foundation had distributed grants to over 150 departments, funding everything from bulletproof vests for dogs to advanced medical care to new training facilities. The Monroe Police Department had received so many donations specifically for their K-9 unit that they'd been able to add 4 new dogs to their program. Officer Mitchell found himself training new handlers while also serving as an unofficial spokesperson for community policing. He'd given over 30 interviews, traveled to 5 different states to speak at law enforcement conferences, and had become something of a minor celebrity himself. "I keep telling people that I didn't do anything special," Mitchell said during a speech at a community policing summit in Atlanta. "Rex didn't do anything special. Emma just saw us as friends. She didn't see the uniform or the badge or the big scary dog. She saw potential for connection. That's what we need to remember in law enforcement. Every interaction is a chance to build a bridge or build a wall. Emma chose to build a bridge, and a German Shepherd recognized that choice and responded to it." His speech received a standing ovation. The video of it was shared over 2 million times. But perhaps the most surprising development was happening in communities that had experienced significant police community tension. In Missouri, a city still healing from years of protests and strained relations, the police department had been hesitant to implement a Hi, Friend program, worried it might be seen as a superficial solution to deep systemic issues. Then something unexpected happened. A group of community activists, including several who had been vocal critics of the police department, reached out to request a meeting. They'd watched Emma's story and wanted to explore whether the principles behind it, genuine connection, mutual respect, leading with openness rather than fear, could be part of a larger conversation about reform and healing. "We're not saying a cute video solves everything," explained community organizer Jasmine Washington during a town hall meeting. "But what Emma did, approaching Rex with pure intentions without preconceptions, that's actually a profound lesson in how we all need to approach each other. We come to the table assuming friendship is possible. We start with hi, friend, instead of assuming the worst. It's simple, but it's powerful." The police department and community leaders launched a pilot program that combined K-9 community visits with facilitated dialogues about police reform, accountability, and healing. It was messy, complicated, and sometimes contentious, but it was happening. People were talking, and at every session there was a police dog present, a living reminder that connection was possible even across the deepest divides. "Emma didn't solve our problems," Washington said in an interview with NPR, "but she gave us a starting point. She gave us a language. Hi, friend means I see you as human first. That's where real change begins." Schools across the country had incorporated Emma's story into their curricula. Teachers used the video to discuss empathy, courage, overcoming fear, and the power of simple kindness. Children wrote essays about who they could say, "Hi, friend," to in their own lives. Art classes created projects inspired by Emma and Rex. The story had become a teaching tool for character education. In Monroe, Emma's preschool had become something of a tourist destination. Parents from neighboring towns were requesting tour, hoping their children could attend the school that had shaped Emma's fearless kindness. The school's director, the same Mrs. from Emma Street, had to hold a special assembly to address what she called the Emma effect. "Emma is a wonderful child," Mrs. told the gathered parents and students. "But she's also just a 3-year-old who did what 3-year-olds do. She followed her heart. Every child in this room has that same capacity for pure, uncomplicated kindness. Emma just happened to be filmed when she showed hers." The assembly ended with every child in the school making "Hi, friend" cards that were distributed to local police officers, firefighters, and community helpers. The Monroe Police Department received over 300 handmade cards. Officer Mitchell had to install a special bulletin board just to display them all. Rex's favorites, the ones with dog drawings, were hung at his eye level. Corporate sponsors had come calling as well, wanting to associate their brands with the positive message. Sarah and David had turned down most of them, uncomfortable with commercializing Emma's moment. But they did partner with a children's book publisher to create an illustrated book titled Hi, Friend, Emma's Story, with all proceeds going to K-9 units and community programs. The book sold 500,000 copies in pre-orders before it was even released. Major cities began declaring Hi, Friend Days, annual celebrations of community connection and positive police relations. The governor of Ohio announced that the last Saturday of every summer would officially be Hi Friend Day throughout the state, with community events, K-9 demonstrations, and neighborhood gatherings encouraged statewide. But amid all the programs, donations, media attention, and nationwide impact, the most important relationship remained the one between Emma and Rex. They had regular now, twice a week. Officer Mitchell brought Rex to the home or Emma visited the police station. Their bond had only deepened. Rex remained gentle and protective with Emma, while Emma continued to treat him like her best friend in the world, telling him stories, sharing her snacks, approved healthy dog treats only, and including him in her elaborate imaginary games. Rex lights up when we turn onto their street, Mitchell told Sarah during one visit. I've seen it. His ears perk up, his tail starts wagging before we even park. He knows where Emma lives. During one visit to the police station, Emma noticed photos on a memorial wall, officers and K-9s who had died in the line of duty. She stood in front of them for a long time, unusually quiet for such an energetic child. Mama, she asked softly, do all the police dogs go to heaven? Sarah knelt beside her daughter. Yes, sweetheart, all the good dogs go to heaven. Emma nodded seriously. Rex is a very good dog, but I don't want him to go to heaven yet. I want him to stay my friend for a long, long time. Officer Mitchell, overhearing the conversation, felt his throat tighten. Hey, Emma, he said gently. Rex isn't going anywhere for a very long time. He's got lots more kids to meet and lots more friends to make. And you're his very best friend, so he definitely wants to stick around. Emma seemed satisfied with this answer. She ran back to Rex and hugged him. You're going to stay, right? Because we're best friends. Rex's tail wagged and he licked her face. Emma giggled, the serious moment forgotten, and began telling him about the new stuffed animal she'd gotten, a German Shepherd, of course, that she'd named Rex Jr. As Sarah and David drove home that evening, Emma chattering happily in the backseat about her day with Rex, David said quietly, do you think she understands? How many people she's affected? How many lives she's changed? Sarah looked back at their daughter, who was acting out an elaborate story with her hands, something involving princesses and police dogs. No, she said softly, and I hope she doesn't, not for a long time. She's 3. She should get to just be 3. But she's not just 3 anymore, David said. She's Emma, the girl who started a movement. To her, Sarah said, she's just Emma who has a really good friend named Rex, and honestly, I think that's the most important thing. All of this, the programs, the donations, the change policies, they all work because they're built on something real. Emma's friendship with Rex isn't a publicity stunt or a political statement. It's genuine. And I think people respond to that authenticity. They were right. In a world that often felt cynical and divided, Emma and Rex represented something authentic and pure. Their friendship wasn't complicated by agendas or ulterior motives. It was simple. A little girl said, "Hi, friend," to a dog, and the dog responded with gentleness and love. Everything that followed, the programs, the change policies, the improved relations, the conversations about reform and healing, all of it stemmed from that one genuine moment of connection. 3 weeks after a viral video, Emma had accidentally proven that the most powerful force for change isn't legislation or mandates or complex policy initiatives. Sometimes it's just 2 words spoken with an open heart. Hi, friend. And the world was listening. 1 year. 365 days since a 3-year-old girl sprinted toward a German Shepherd police dog and spoke 2 words that would ripple across the world. Now, on a warm Saturday afternoon in late summer, Monroe, Ohio was preparing to celebrate the first annual Hi, Friend Festival, a community event that had grown far beyond anything anyone could have imagined. Sarah stood on the steps of Monroe City Hall, looking out at the massive crowd gathering in the town square. Over 20,000 people had descended on their small town of barely 15,000 residents. Vendors lined the streets. Stages had been erected for live music and speeches. K9 demonstration areas were set up throughout the park. News crews from major networks had their cameras positioned strategically. And at the center of it all, wearing a special festival t-shirt with a drawing of her and Rex, was Emma, now 4 years old, somehow both exactly the same and completely transformed. "Mama, can I go see Rex now?" Emma tugged on Sarah's hand, bouncing on her toes with barely contained excitement. "He's supposed to be here already." "Soon, baby. The mayor wants to say a few words first and then." "Emma," a familiar voice cut through the crowd noise. Officer Jake Mitchell in his dress uniform was making his way through the sea of people, and beside him, tail wagging furiously, was Rex, wearing a special ceremonial vest for the occasion, his coat gleaming in the sunlight. Emma didn't wait for permission. She took off running, just like she had a year ago, and Rex, recognizing his favorite person in the world, pulled forward on his lead. Mitchell let it happen, watching with the same amazed smile he'd worn during their first encounter. Emma and Rex met in the middle of the pathway, and the 4-year-old threw her arms around the German shepherd's neck while he nuzzled her face, his tail creating a small windstorm. The crowd that had gathered erupted in applause and cheers. Cameras flashed. People wiped tears from their eyes. Even after a year, even after millions of views and countless replays, watching Emma and Rex together still had the power to move people to tears. Mayor approached the podium, her voice amplified through speakers across the square. "Ladies and neighbors and friends from near and far, welcome to Monroe, Ohio's first annual High Friend Festival." The crowd roared its approval. 1 year ago today, in a moment that none of us could have predicted, a brave little girl taught us all a lesson about the power of leading with kindness instead of fear. Emma didn't see a big, intimidating police dog. She saw a friend she hadn't met yet. And in doing so, she sparked a movement that has transformed communities across our entire nation. The mayor went on to detail the incredible impact of the past year. The Emma and Rex Foundation had distributed over $12 million to K9 units in all 50 states. 218 police departments had launched High Friend community programs. 37 cities had declared official High Friend Days. Most remarkably, cities that had implemented the programs reported an average 34% improvement in positive police-community interactions. In neighborhoods where children participated in K9 programs, trust in law enforcement had increased measurably. But statistics don't tell the whole story, Mayor continued. The real story is in the connections made, the barriers broken, the conversations started. It's in the Chicago grandmother who told us she stopped being afraid when police patrol her street. It's in the Lowe's Angel's little boy who wants to be a K9 officer when he grows up. It's in the community members and police officers who are working together toward healing, starting every meeting by saying, "Hi, friend," to remind themselves why they're there. The crowd listened, captivated. Sarah felt David's arm around her shoulders, both of them overwhelmed by the magnitude of what their daughter had accidentally started. "And now," the mayor said with a warm smile, "I'd like to invite our guest of honor to say a few words, ladies and Emma." Emma looked up at her mother with wide eyes. "Do I have to talk to all these people?" Sarah knelt down, smoothing her daughter's hair. "Only if you want to, sweetheart. You can just wave if you'd rather do that." Emma considered this carefully. Then she looked at Rex, who sat patiently beside Officer Mitchell and seemed to draw courage from him, the same way she had a year ago. "I'll talk," she decided, "but Rex has to come with me." "I think that can be arranged," Officer Mitchell said with a grin. Moments later, Emma stood at a specially positioned lower microphone, Rex sitting calmly at her side, his presence clearly giving her confidence. 20,000 people fell completely silent, waiting to hear what this 4-year-old girl would say. Emma looked out at the massive crowd, momentarily intimidated. Then she felt Rex's warm presence beside her and remembered why she was here. She leaned toward the microphone and said in her clear, sweet voice, "Hi, friends." The crowd erupted. People laughed and cheered and some cried. It was perfect, so perfectly Emma, so perfectly simple yet so profound. When the noise died down, Emma continued, "I'm Emma and this is Rex. He's my best friend. Well, one of my best friends. I also have Sarah from preschool now because she shares crayons. But Rex is my special best friend because he's a police dog and he's very good and very nice." She paused, petting Rex's head. "Mama says lots of people watched the video of me meeting Rex. That's cool. But the most important thing is that Rex is nice to me and I'm nice to him. My daddy says that's called being kind. And if everyone is kind, then everyone can be friends." She looked down at Rex. "Right, Rex?" The German shepherd's tail wagged enthusiastically, and he let out a single, perfectly timed bark that made the entire crowd laugh with delight. "See," Emma said proudly, "he agrees. So everyone should just be nice and say hi to people, and to dogs. Dogs are good friends." She thought for a moment. "And cats too, and birds, and probably turtles, but I've never met a turtle." The crowd was completely charmed. This wasn't a rehearsed speech or a political statement. This was a 4-year-old speaking from her heart, with the same innocent wisdom that had started everything a year ago. "Okay, I'm done talking now," Emma announced. "Can I go play with Rex?" Mayer, laughing through her tears, said, "Yes, Emma, you can go play with Rex." As Emma skipped off the stage with Rex trotting beside her, the festival truly began. K9 demonstrations filled multiple areas of the park, dogs showing their training and obedience, scent detection and search and rescue. But unlike typical demonstrations, these were designed for maximum community interaction. Children lined up to meet the dogs, to pet them under supervision, to overcome their fears just like Emma had. Officer Mitchell found himself constantly surrounded by people wanting photos with Rex, wanting to thank him for his role in starting the movement, wanting to share their own stories of how Emma's video had impacted their lives. A woman from Seattle told him her autistic son, who struggled with social interaction, had learned to say, "Hi, friend," and was now making connections with other children. A man from Atlanta explained that watching Emma approach Rex without fear had inspired him to finally have a difficult conversation with his estranged brother, leading with friendship instead of old grievances. Throughout the park, Emma moved like a tiny celebrity, but she remained remarkably unchanged by all the attention. She greeted every police dog she encountered with genuine enthusiasm, asked handlers about their partners, and even convinced her parents to let her try some K9 training exercises designed for children, crawling through tunnels and following scent trails, while Rex helped her by staying close and offering encouraging nuzzles. By late afternoon, a special ceremony was held to present awards. Officer Mitchell and Rex received the Monroe Police Department's Medal of Community Service, the first time the award had ever been given to a K9 unit. But Mitchell immediately knelt down and placed the medal around Emma's neck instead. "This belongs to you," he said softly. "You're the one who saw past the uniform and the badge. You're the one who taught Rex and taught me that connection is always possible if we lead with an open heart." Emma looked at the shiny medal, then at Rex. With the logic only a 4-year-old possesses, she took the medal off and tried to put it around Rex's neck. "It's really Rex's," she insisted. "He's the one who was nice when I said hi." Mitchell helped her drape it over Rex's vest. "How about you share it?" he suggested. "You both earned it." Emma beamed. "Okay, we can take turns wearing it. Rex can have it on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'll have it on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And on Sundays, we'll just put it somewhere safe." The crowd, listening through the sound system, laughed and applauded this perfectly Emma solution. As the sun began to set over Monroe, Ohio, casting golden light across the festival, Sarah and David sat on a blanket watching Emma play with Rex in a designated area. Their daughter was showing the German shepherd her latest drawing, another portrait of the two of them, this one more sophisticated than the one from a year ago, but still unmistakably the work of a child. "Do you think she'll ever understand what she did?" David asked quietly. "The lives she changed, the movement she started." Sarah watched Emma laugh as Rex gently took a toy from her hand in a game of tug-of-war, the big police dog being so careful not to accidentally hurt her. "Maybe someday, but honestly, I hope she stays like this as long as possible. Innocent, fearless, seeing the potential for friendship in everyone she meets." "The world needs more people like her," David said. "The world needs more people who remember how to be like her," Sarah corrected. "We were all like that once, before we learned fear, before we learned prejudice, before we learned to see barriers instead of bridges." Emma's gift wasn't just saying hi to Rex. Her gift is reminding us what we lost and showing us we can get it back. As darkness fell and the festival wound down, one final event took place. 20,000 people, using the light from their phones, created a sea of illumination across the Monroe Town Square. And together, following Emma's lead as she stood on stage one more time with Rex beside her, they said in unison, "Hi, friend." The words echoed across the square, across social media feeds where the moment was being, across the country where similar gatherings were being held in dozens of other cities. 2 words, simple, pure, powerful. A year ago, those words had been spoken by a fearless 3-year-old to a German Shepherd police dog. Today, they were being spoken by millions. A reminder that the path to connection, to understanding, to healing, starts with the simplest gesture of all, friendship. Emma, now 4 years old, had no idea that her spontaneous act of kindness had been viewed over 300 million times worldwide. She didn't know that "Hi, Friend" programs existed in 43 countries. She didn't know that she'd been nominated for numerous humanitarian awards, or that multiple universities were studying the Emma effect in their sociology and psychology departments. All she knew was that she had a best friend named Rex, that being kind was important, and that saying hello to someone, whether human or dog, was always the right choice. As the family drove home that night, Emma clutched her shared medal and chattered happily about her favorite parts of the day. "Rex and I got to be on stage together, and I met 17 other police dogs, and one of them was named Princess, which is a funny name for a police dog, but she was very nice. And tomorrow can I call Rex? Because I want to tell him about the dream I'm going to have tonight about us going on an adventure." Sarah smiled, exchanging a glance with David in the mirror. "Yes, sweetheart, tomorrow you can call Rex." Officer Mitchell, driving home in his own vehicle with Rex in the back, received a text from Sarah. "Emma wants to call Rex tomorrow to tell him about a dream she hasn't had yet. Is that okay?" Mitchell laughed and texted back, "Rex would be disappointed if she didn't." Because that was the truth of it. The bond between Emma and Rex had only grown stronger over the past year. They saw each other at least twice a week. Rex still lit up whenever Emma arrived. Emma still greeted him with the same enthusiasm every single time, as if it had been years instead of days since their last meeting. It was a friendship that transcended species, age, and circumstance, a friendship built on the foundation, genuine love and acceptance. 1 year after 2 words changed the world, the lesson remained as simple and powerful as ever. Connection is possible. Friendship is achievable. Barriers can be broken. It just takes courage, kindness, and a willingness to see potential friends instead of threats. Emma had shown the world how to do it. Rex had proven that even the most professional, highly trained individuals can respond to genuine kindness with genuine warmth. And together, they'd created a legacy that would continue long after Emma grew up, long after Rex eventually retired from active duty. Because some moments transcend time, some friendships change the world, and sometimes the most powerful message is delivered in just 2 words, "Hi, friend." As Emma fell asleep that night, her medal on the nightstand and her stuffed German Shepherd Rex Jr. tucked under her arm, she had no idea that her story would be told for generations. She didn't know that children studying her video decades from now would learn about the power of innocent courage. She didn't know that "Hi, friend" would become more than a phrase. It would become a philosophy, a movement, a reminder of what's possible when we lead with love instead of fear. All Emma knew, as she drifted off to sleep, was that she had the best friend in the whole world, and tomorrow she'd get to talk to him on the phone. And really, when you think about it, that's all that matters. Hi, friend. The end.